Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Laid Bare, an interview series where we team up with esports personalities and we take you through their journey before esports and how they got to where they are today, and also potentially what they're up to in the future. On our first episode of Laid Bare, we have Andrew Spurrier, also known as Spuddington. Here's a short preview of his work.
The other thing this does, of course, is it means that the early pushing race becomes even more important than it usually does. Most champions, they've got wave clear, they can push it out, but both of these AD carries are actually not that strong at clearing the wave that quickly. They're both single target and utilizing the advantage they got. They're getting that extra CS gap. Just taking some strange auto-attack trade. Jax, like I say, if he gets his auto-attack reset off, quite strong, and Malphite is very reliant on base damage.
Alright, welcome back. So, Andrew, would you like to state your date of birth and where you were born?
Well, if my webcam holds out for the entirety of the interview, very cheap one. I was born in '91 and born in pretty close to Oxford, if I can remember correctly.
Pretty close. Did you grow up in Oxford then, or?
No. Pretty youthful age. My family moved to the Channel Islands, to Guernsey specifically, which is where I am now, which is bloody inconvenient, by the way, for anyone trying to pursue a career in esports, because anytime you try to go anywhere, you have to do another leg of your journey. So don't do it, but that's where I am, because I'm an idiot.
So you basically grew up in Guernsey for the entirety of your life, you would say so?
Went to boarding school.
You went to boarding school?
Yeah. So basically, when I was in primary school, and my webcam is really doing something very strange. When I went to boarding school, I'll try and not move. That'll fix it. But when I went to boarding school, I basically... sorry. When I went to primary school in Guernsey, I had some issues with, because I'm actually dyspraxic. So I was having some issues with learning to write and stuff, and my parents didn't feel like the school was supporting that fact adequately, so they did what any sensible middle-class parents do and sent me to a public school in England. Camera, please.
I'm loving the camera.
I don't understand. It's like it's trying to adapt for changing environment by lowering the brightness to 0. But
it's fine. Carry on.
Keep going. But yeah, sent me to boarding school where I would say I lived happily for the majority of the time, but sort of didn't. But I did stay there for quite a long time anyway.
So how was boarding school? Because I've been a boarder myself once, and in an all-boys school, actually, so you can imagine how that went. How was your experience?
Well, for me, it was partly that actually got me massively into video games, because I hated sports. Because dyspraxia, one of the aspects that affected me was that I tend to be quite mal-coordinated about stuff. Public schools are very heavily orientated on your success in sports, and if you can't catch a ball, you can't throw a ball, you can't hit a cricket bat into a ball, you have some issues with that aspect. So I started skipping games, which then brought me into the circle of people that also skip games, and that inevitably led to basically running LANs every single day. It was great times. Played Rome Total War for hours. The teacher came in, we'd be everyone alt tab, but my computer was so terrible, it just had a black screen, so I had to end up blagging that. Didn't work particularly well on the whole, but it was basically what I did in school.
So your parents pretty much sent you to boarding school. Did you stay in contact with them a lot during the time, or was it just go to boarding school, don't talk to us?
I went to boarding school and phone up every week kind of thing. Go home for half terms and holidays as well. So it wasn't like I was cut off from the family. And the other thing was I also had 2 brothers at the same schools, 2 years and 4 years older respectively. But yeah, so I could never quite say I was ever away from the family entirely. And I also had grandparents, so I visited them as well, occasionally.
So how is your relationship with your parents now? Like, is it because they know you do all these things? You travel a lot. You were in, if I'm right, Sao Paulo. I
Sao
can't.
Paulo, yeah.
Sao Paulo.
Brazil.
You're in Brazil for IAM, and uh, that was pretty big. So did you tell your parents like, hey, look, I need to go to Brazil for this gaming thing?
Yep. Yeah,
What was
they
what was their
said
initial reaction?
they were like, sure, whatever. And pretty much I had to kind of like I'd been slowly breaking them in and like
Yeah.
explaining the concepts of like esports and casting and what I was trying to do, where I was trying to go. And my parents pretty chilled about it. They were, they're pretty accepting of the possibility. There is a slight issue, of course, at this point that I have been technically unemployed for about 2 years. And they are starting to get a bit impatient with that fact, which may cause me to have a little bit less time to cast if I get a job at Costa or something like that to fill in the time.
Yeah.
But, for now at least, my life is idyllic, frankly.
Okay, so let's get into how you actually started playing games. You already said that it was because you were bunking games, like a lot of people do nowadays. I'm a victim of this as well. We're not allowed to call it games anymore. We have to call it physical education because it's a lesson in our school.
The thing was, at the school I was at, they had games and they had PE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was like 2 hour session at the end of every day, pretty much for games, which was like your rugby, your cricket. Although I only had to like start skipping games for like the first couple of years because once you got to fifth form, you could choose your own sport, right? And one of the options was 5-minute fives, which is basically a sport which is squash but played with a padded glove instead. And
Right.
the rules of that game session was you turned up, you played one game, and then you left, and you were done. For like a 2 hour session, and it was literally you walk in, play one game, 5 minutes, gone. So that was great. Once I could do that, because then I could just go home, and then people couldn't put me in detention for skipping games.
All right, fair enough. So, roughly, how old would you say you were when you got into video games?
I think I was always interested in them, like from a really quite early age. I played, God, I think Worms 2 was actually my first game, like ever. Like, great, it was a great game.
Yeah, it's a brilliant game.
Fucking great. Played that game, and then, like, I think my parents got me an original Brit Game Boy as well. Or maybe, no, we got like the family. This was the thing, we got the family thing. So, 3 brothers in the household. And we had one PC and one Game Boy between us.
Damn.
There was acrimony, might be the word, between the people. Not helped by my elder brother's relationship with each other, which was not particularly good, even by sibling standards. So yes, there was stuff, and then of course, like for some reason, like we were like impoverished to a point where you couldn't buy a games console on your own pocket money. You had to like share it with one brother, which was just asking for legal battles. Like just insane amounts of stupidity, basically. But so like I was always playing games, always enjoyed games, mostly a console gamer, of course, up until it would have been year 9 when I got a laptop, and that was at boarding school, and that was when I was able to start like just setting up my own games and playing that and doing LANs. I even brought a router into school, like just like my own LAN. I had
So
to
you
find out
were
what a
the
router
cool
was.
kid.
Oh, I
You're the
was
cool kid.
so
You, like, plugged
I
it
was
in.
so cool. Look at me. How cool do you think I've ever been in my life?
So you're the cool kid that had the router, and people were like, hey, Andrew, what's the password? Let's all get on our private
It
server.
was a wired one, so there
was
wasn't
a wired one.
passwords. Yeah.
Oh, there was no passwords.
And well,
So-
up until that point, we used the school wireless network, but it desynced when you played Rome Total War really badly.
So you played Rome Total War.
Yeah.
Would that have been your first game on?
We on the PC, I think we also played like Halo Custom Edition. Does anyone like, as far as I'm aware, I've never spoken to anyone else that's played Halo Custom
Oh.
Edition.
My
It's the
first
PC
Halo
port
was,
of the original one.
My
was
first
multiplayer.
Halo was Halo Combat Evolved. That's
Yeah, well, yeah. So like, it is that game, but it's that engine, but it was put in like a multiplayer only setting, and it had like tons of appallingly badly made custom maps. Like, just You'd like one put like there was one map they made it was exactly the same as Blood Gulch, if you know the map, fairly standard like desert map, except they made it so if you get into a vehicle, it takes off and flies into a wall and kills you. That was the only change. And
Oh,
we
okay.
spent tons of time playing like these shitty maps, but it was great fun.
Oh,
I really enjoyed those days.
now you're making me think back of the time. I miss those days. The console days, playing on my piece, on my console. Halo, Call of
You see,
Duty.
Halo Custom Edition was PC only, you know. So like,
Good. So, what would have been your first competitive game that you played?
so I wouldn't necessarily call the game competitive, but the way I played it when I first learned a sort of semi-competitive mindset was Supreme Commander. Like I actually found out recently that D-Man used to cast that, and I had no idea that he had done that because I only got in like started trying to get good at that game when he'd already left it, and most of the scene had given up and gone home at that point. But yeah, that was when I first learned to because played a few. Like I used to be the guy that was like, let's play no rush, 2 times resources, turtle for 50 minutes, and then the game slows down to -6 speed, so the next 30 minutes takes like 4 hours to play out. So we played this, and then it would crash. Like you'd never finish a game of vanilla Supcom that way. Eventually, like Forged Alliance the expansion came out, and I played that for a little while, and like I think I accidentally clicked into ranked.
Right.
I accidentally played like a game, and I won, and I was like, whoa! I just beat someone one on one, and the game finished and everything, and that was amazing. So like I played some more, and I was terrible. So I was, oh, God, I can't remember. It had an ELO system going on. I can't remember what ELO I was, but I was really, really terrible. And eventually I got mad, like, and I was like, and of course I did the natural things. I was like, this game is unbalanced, restorers are broken, you know, whatever I could find to blame. So after a while of doing that, essentially I asked in like the global chat room because Subcom had a client kind of like PvP.net for League, and after every game it dumped you into a global chat room. With
Right.
like, and because it was such a small community, it didn't like fill up with spam bots or anything like PvP.net chat rooms tend to. Sadly, but yeah. So eventually, I whined in there, and someone pointed me to a guide that was basically just like the mindset of competitive gaming. This will be your one-stop shop, and you will learn. And it basically just was guy underscore pink was his name, just saying, do things. Literally, the basis of competitive gaming, as far as I can tell from according to his guide, is literally don't whine that stuff is OP, abuse it. Also, never let anything go to waste. And that's kind of the basis in theory. Like,
It's fair enough.
made sense.
That's how it
But,
works.
so yeah, I played that for a while anyway. And I got like reasonably high on that ladder. Like very small community, as I say. Most of the good players had actually left the community by the time I played. I got up to like rank 50 or 100, you know, top 100 at the very least in that. And eventually Subcom 2 came out, and I switched over to that. And it's kind of a worse game, but I played it better, so I carried on playing that. And did okay in that, and actually won a couple of tournaments. And then, of course, this thing, that was actually where I started hearing about shoutcasting as well. We did some absolutely appallingly boring shoutcasting. Like if you listen, oh god, it was me and this
Can
other
we
guy.
find them? Can we find them?
You probably could. There's also one where I was piss drunk casting, like just
that's
yelling down the microphone at a volume to shatter the earth. But yeah, so did start doing a little bit of shoutcasting then. I was like, I'm pretty sure I won't do this at all. And eventually found League via Pulse, who you may know as another currently amateur caster who he played Subcom 2, and obviously I knew him as a result of that. He was reasonably good at it. We played a lot of free-for-all games in that, which was good times. Eventually, he pulled me into League. He'd been playing for a few months already. He was like, well, this is this game. It's free to play. And I said when I played League, this game will be terrible. I will not enjoy it. I do not want to play this game. You're making me play this game.
That's what we all said. That's what we all. I used to play StarCraft, and I was just like, this game is too colorful. And then I realized I was actually really bad at StarCraft.
Oh, God.
League was 10 times easier for me. Did you ever play StarCraft then?
I tried to play StarCraft 2.
I take it it's pretty similar to Subcom.
Ladies and gentlemen, my final rank in StarCraft 2 was Copper. That doesn't even exist anymore. There is no one worse at StarCraft 2 than me. That is my claim to fame.
You see, I used to play on a friend's account before I actually got it. And that's how I got into the whole competitive gaming thing with StarCraft, because I just love the idea of people playing games to make money.
Yeah.
And I played on a friend's account, so I knew the basics. And then when I got my own account, I got placed into gold. And I was like...
wow. Look at this pro.
I got placed into gold, and all I used to play was Terran. And all I used to do was 6 racks. And then I played, and then I got dropped into silver, and then I got back into gold, and then suddenly I was like, this game is too hard. So I forced myself to go into bronze so I could learn how to play the game. And then I got into
what, you just like dodged every single game?
Yeah, I dodged every single game. I shouldn't be doing that, but I just dodged every single one, and I purposely lost. And I got into bronze, and then I only stayed in the top 3. Like, and I never progressed. I could never get into silver. And I was like, you know what? This game is bad. Gonna play League of Legends. Yeah. That's what it is.
But yeah, so I got pulled into League of Legends, hated it, didn't like play the game for a very long time. I just like ran up to people and danced because I found that was the thing. Bought random items, didn't even try to understand the game for like quite a while, a few weeks even at least, of just like literally purely saying, I don't want to play this game. I'm not interested in this game. And eventually it sunk its hooks in, like started to engage with the actual game portion of the game rather than a dancing simulator. Advanced a little bit. I was still awful, but by that point I'd also developed a habit of looking on forums for bad advice, which I follow to the letter, mobile fire guides, gradually going up the progression of leveling up, which I think a lot of people go through. And yeah, eventually hit level 30. Played, I think, about 20 games of ranked in season 1. And I got placed at like 1350 elo and started slowly dropping. And back in those days, if you dropped below 1200, your elo became invisible. You were considered unranked at that point. But people could still see you had played ranked games. So they were like, this guy, I know he's shit.
Yeah.
So what I did was I cleverly stopped playing and stopped playing ranked entirely until the end of season 1. Like playing one game to stop decay, if that was even a thing. And then essentially after a while I was able to, I got the season 1 bronze icon, still got it, still use it sometimes, it's great. Rare item. But yeah, so, and eventually, and like I gradually improved at the game, and I was playing solo queue because I enjoyed it, and didn't play much solo queue, never have, because I find it a little bit stressful. But I still don't. And I'm in Diamond 2 now, and I still don't like enjoy solo queue per se. But like I was kind of trying to build myself up as a player, and I think it was eventually it was Pulse actually again who's like, he had already been casting for like 6 months at that point, and he tried to pull me into it. Basically, that's how it started.
So, how did you meet Pulse? Because I always had this feeling that you went to the same school, if I'm right, but no, that's not true.
Yeah, he's way younger than me.
Yeah.
He's
he's only a couple months older than me.
Yeah.
So I'm a baby. But yeah, how did that friendship come about?
It was literally Subcom 2. Like, we both played the game. I played it slightly more competitively than him.
So you just met him online then?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
There was like a group of people that inevitably formed that was like the top few players that were interested in the game, engaged with the game, like trying to, theory craft about the game as well. Soviet Pride was one of these people. You probably have never spoken to him. We'll never hear of him again. But no. he I think it was him who he wrote guides and also tutored bad players to be less bad at Subcom 2, which is a pointless endeavor. But eventually he, I think, introduced me to Pulse, and it was basically a TeamSpeak server where we would just gather, and then sometimes someone would be like, "You want to play 1v1, 4v4, free for all these different game modes," and we just enjoy ourselves stomping puppies or each other sometimes. Yeah, so yeah, that was basically it, and from then eventually moved to League. Same people for a while, not as much anymore.
So you played League of Legends for a bit. How did you get into casting? So you said Pulse got you into it, but was that your first experience of esports? Because
I already followed
oh,
the
okay.
competitive scene out of interest and to try and improve my own solo queue play. I learned nothing from it, but I became interested. And especially, I think probably the defining moments for me in terms of enjoying the esports scene was the Season 1 finals. Because, of course, at that time, EU West was broken. So you couldn't play League.
Everyone remembers that.
The best possible alternative was to watch the finals. And it helped that they were damn good games. They were really enjoyable to watch. A lot of fun, and, really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, that was like where I sort of started to follow it, and from there I just kind of meandered along throughout majority of Season 2, I think, just following what was what tournaments were going on and what was happening when.
So did you always want to go into shoutcasting, or was it
Nope.
just you wanted
I'd be
to play?
Nope, I didn't
Nope.
think I'd be good enough for either.
You didn't even want to get into esports.
Self-deprecation, Talha, is the core of my very being.
Wow.
And essentially, I said, like, literally, this is how my solo queue progression has always gone. I've always been, say, one tier below, and I'll be like, well, maybe like halfway to the next tier above is achievable, but I don't think I'll ever get gold. I don't think I'll ever get plat. I don't think I'll ever get diamond. I don't think I'll ever get, well, I haven't got challenger. But so, that is literally how it has always been for me. And it was the same with casting, because I was like, I don't want to be involved in this, when Paul said, because I'll be dry, monotone. My game knowledge is gold at the time when I started, and I don't think it'll be that good. I think people will dislike that fact. And I was damn right, by the way. I was terrible when I started, but Pulse basically needed someone to help him out because he had been picked up by Chaos TV at that point. They were running the 4PL Play for Fame, Vengeance Cups, whatever they were called, long frigging name. And at that time, I think it was pretty much him and Metas and Enzi that were doing those. And Enzi sort of wasn't really, probably wasn't going to be able to keep doing them forever because he was a bit unreliable. So yeah, so they wanted to, try and branch out, bring in new casters. And I did like one or two practices with Pulse, I think, maybe. Again, they were really dry, monotone. I was just like, I'm doing this, and it's really interesting. I think I can see this Aurelia is building Wit's End because she's against a magic damage lane, and it was really quite dry.
Yeah,
like literally sodium chlorate or whatever the friggin' stuff they put in those little packages is. But as time went by, like I asked for feedback from them, from both Pulse and from Metas. Metas is very experienced at this point because he's done a lot of COD 4 casting and something else as well. I think he even did COD 2 casting, Metas. But he'd been casting for a long, long time. He was very experienced, and I asked him for feedback, and he said actually you were doing fine. And I think he may have been being kind when he was saying that. But his alternative, of course, at that point, because Metas' play-by-play would have been to like rely entirely on Zenzi fellow. So yeah, I essentially just did a lot of like I was getting into that casting there, and then 4PL stopped after a while. Like they just LCS appeared, of course, and everyone said foresaw doom. Said this is the end. All things will now come to a halt. And essentially, everyone stopped without checking to see whether they'd actually continue to get viewers. Because as we've seen from the Challenger scene now, there is still some life there. even if
Yeah.
Riders once again kind of crushing it out again with their own Coke series. But that is possibly something I should not be whining about myself. So yes, at that point, 4PL died, and then I basically stopped again for like 6 months or so. Like I still kind of wanted to do casting, and I was still looking for work and asking people like, "Do you want to do it?" And mostly ending up with like 10 viewer streams, 2 viewer streams. These are the very very small but still enjoyable to do the process of casting. Still enjoyable to do those. And yeah, so eventually ended up doing nothing almost of any note or significance for about another 6 months until Chaos TV. We actually kind of hit them up and asked, "Do you feel like doing any challenger stuff would be wise?" And we used Broken Shard's challenger series, because you remember back then he just ran a tournament out of the blue, and there was actually decent viewing numbers for it, and that actually kind of was the very first thing I think after LCS appeared that made people actually look and go, wait, maybe there's still some life here. So when Chaos TV then partnered up with Broken Shard and said, "Can you get us the teams in, and we'll run these tournaments ourselves. We'll do a much more professional production, get good casters in." And Broken Shard actually casted that for a while as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
And that went on for quite a long time, and it's still going on actually. The Chaos TV Challenger series, technically, I think we're doing another one in like 4 or 5 days from whenever it is exactly now. Although I'm not sure when this video will be released.
It should be up soon. It'll be up as soon as possible. So,
all right. So a week.
Yeah. Yeah, roughly around there. It'll be up. It should be up.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of work with Chaos TV, but how did the whole ESL IEM opportunity arise?
Right. So this is a moderately lengthy story, but essentially the core of it was I was in a Skype chat that Joe Miller was in, like the LOLcaster networking chat.
Yeah.
And Joe said, "Is anyone interested in casting for IEM Singapore?" Which is not the one I went to. He posted a message there. "If so, post a VOD of stuff you've done, and we'll get back to you."
Okay.
So, there were quite a few people that did, and I was obviously one of them. And after that, Joe did get back to me and did say, "We're interested in having you cast this." But that actually fell through in the end. There was like an organizational cock-up, and they didn't end up requiring me for Singapore. So that didn't happen. I think actually, I think Rapid and EGAD went in the end. I think that was who went in the end, but that's basically irrelevant. So I ended up not getting that, but Joe then came back to me to do the LCS promotional qualifiers. So the qualifiers for LCS.
Yeah.
Because of course now we've got this system where Riot's doing it themselves, and you do the challenger circuit and you get your circuit points, and you eventually get into the promotional tournament. Back then they didn't have that, so they just said basically, ESL, do you want to just run a tournament? And I think the system for qualifying for that tournament was like just assigned to some random stuff. Like if you won DreamHack, you get to go to this tournament, that kind of thing. And then there was like an online bracket as well. So yeah, I casted that tournament. And of course, because I'd been doing basically nothing but EUS Challenger Series at that point for quite a long time, my knowledge was good of the teams, and I was going to be around for that. Oh yeah, here was the reason actually. I remember now. I remembered an aspect of the story I'd completely forgotten, which is why he bothered to get back to me, I suspect, was because he and Jason Kaplan were at IEM Singapore. And at the point where they came back, it was almost immediately after the LCS promotional qualifiers were happening. The fact that happened exactly then was rather an unfortunate coincidence, because there was a big update at that exact time. Can't remember which patch it was. But obviously they were in Singapore on the tournament realm, where they weren't going to have the time to adapt. I think it may have been maybe it was a different tournament realm on an older patch. So they didn't have time to learn the game, basically. That was what had changed. So they said, "Do you want to come along, do some color casting for us, and we'll do the play-by-play, essentially," which was goddamn fantastic, because I got to cast with Joe Miller. Which is like still like #1 experience in terms of casting in many ways. Because you never feel safer than when you're casting with Joe Miller. Because you could be terrible and he will still cover for you. But yeah, so got that done out of the way, and casted with them, and I think they liked the casting I was doing then. Spoke to them there, and eventually our IEM Sao Paulo came around, and they said, well, I think I contacted them that time and said, are you interested in me? And they said yes. Sounds like a proposition of some sort, but they in the end, I think they put me in contact with Red Eye, and he said, I think he looked at a VOD before saying yes. He didn't just unconditionally say it, but in the end, yeah, got the Sao Paulo thing, and then of course there's this big gap that's happened now because Katowice happened, but that was being casted by the LCS casters. That was being casted by Quickshot by Joe, and so I didn't have a hope in hell, and that kind of passed me by. But I'm hoping that I'll be getting to go to China soon.
Hopefully. How do you say it? Shenzhen.
Shenzhen? I don't know. Maybe I'll learn. Shen.
Shen.
Yeah, it's fine.
Will there be top lane Shen making a return?
I doubt it.
Shen
is suffering from a bad case of being terrible at the moment.
Well, people are playing Twitch, so you could have the Submarine. The Submarine could come back.
Maybe, but
just because people are playing Twitch.
It's like Shen was balanced around teleport being like 320-second cooldown. Now, if you're jumping to a teleport to a tower, it's half that, and that's all you're ever going to be doing if you're just playing a split pusher. So, like, compared to just Shyvana with split push with teleport, he is worse in almost every possible respect.
It's sad. So I love Shen. He was a good champion. It was fun.
He was unbelievably good when they first rejigged his skills. It wasn't like a full rework, but they changed around a few of his things, released him in the most broken state you can imagine. Like, he could just lane against anyone and beat you from level 1. And that's not... Shen's supposed to be like a late game threat. And
full blade.
That was well balanced.
Oh my god. So how was the experience at IEM Brazil? It's not even Brazil. Sao Paulo.
It was so goddamn hot in there.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure.
No air conditioning, and we had stage lights.
Right now we can get a picture on the stream.
Oh god, don't
review.
My family found that picture.
So if you look at it, it's Spud here enjoying IEM Sao Paulo.
You see, in between games, I felt it necessary in order to ensure that my brain continued functioning at maximum efficiency, that I would be able to vent as much heat as possible.
You see, are you actually naked? Are you fully naked in that?
Swimming trunks.
Okay, because you can't really
swimming trunks while I was casting as well, and I would regularly pour water over them as like a radiator, because I was. It was like 40, seriously, it was 45 degrees C outside. We were inside with 100 sweaty Brazilians, like. Damn it!
It's all out now.
It's fine. I said sweaty because, like, it was just so sweltering in there, and I think this is something where a lot of casters would say, "What are you complaining about?" But this was like my first major LAN experience at all, because the Cologne thing. Yeah. There was no audience. We were doing it in Cologne. We were doing it in the ESL studio where it was nice and air conditioned. I don't know if it was, but it was cool. I think it was actually just winter, so it probably wasn't air conditioned at all. But it was cool. It was comfortable atmosphere. Knew where I was. Nice comfy chairs, etc., etc. And then Sao Paulo was so very different from that. I had to adapt. I think we'll say that.
Just pouring water all over your body in the middle of cast.
Trousers. So you can't let it show on camera. What happens off camera stays off camera, Talha. And then Red Eye freaking took that photo where I look like I'm naked because of the angle, which he'd very deliberately lined up. And I was just like, oh, I can't even be bothered to stop you doing this. I know what you're doing. I regret that decision.
So now it's next time. That's why when you go next time to anything, you have to catch him in the act as well. You have to catch him
naked. He has a sense of shame.
You have to get him. You have to get him somewhere. Him eating like a massive cake by himself.
I don't
Done.
know what kind of person you think Red Eye is, Talha. Like, I don't. Feel you may have some major misconceptions here. He's not like some enormously fat man.
I'm not calling out. I never said that.
Oh,
I never said that.
whole
You never
pound
know.
of cake.
He might like cake. I bet he likes cake.
And you suggest that my best method of getting revenge upon him is to just photograph him with a cake.
I like cake.
Scandalous photos reveal man eats cake.
Okay, so let's go from sweaty Brazilians to cakes to the end. So, Spud,
Whoa. It's the end?
it's the end. The end is nigh.
It's over.
The end is nigh. So, Spud, what are your future events that you're planning on going to? Anything that's already confirmed? Because I know you said that IEM, you're hoping for it to come back around again. But is there anything confirmed
I
so
have
far?
absolutely nothing confirmed, sir.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Not even Chaos TV.
I think there's an online Challenger series coming up, which I should be able to get that
Okay.
down. We don't, the Challenger series, we don't have formal caster schedules or anything because it's online and it's much more fluid. You can kind of say, oh, I don't think I'll be around for that day, and that's fine.
Right.
But with respect to lands, I mean, I'm obviously, I hope I'll get to, go to DreamHack. I have applied for that, for instance, but no confirmation of that. And historically, Panky has been the man that does that. So it's not that likely. Hoping that IEM, and I'm hoping obviously that subsequent IEMs as well. Even if China falls through, or even if I get it, I would still hope to be able to do future ones in that, because it was a lot of fun working with them on that.
So going away from esports, what would your future plans be then? Something that isn't gaming. Well, it could be gaming, but
So this is one of the things about my life that I didn't really highlight before, which is an utter lack of direction. Like I
fair
did
enough.
not, like I really did not have any idea what I wanted to do with my life throughout my life. I still kind of don't really. Like, I enjoy casting. I would love to do casting. If anyone says, like, we need to hire a caster for a full-time job right now, it could be anywhere in the bleeding world, I would say, yes, I will do it. I would love to do that. If that doesn't work out, though, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Because I've never had much luck in terms of, like, for instance, I've never had a chance, I've never tried even to have a chance to manage a team, which I know is something that a lot of people end up doing in the challenger scene. They end up managing a team for a while, managing rosters, managing their tournaments, all that sort of stuff, and that kind of admin-y role. I've never done like tournament admin stuff. I mean, occasionally I've had to be like, just because I'm the only man on side, because this is one of the things about casting. Everyone assumes you understand what's going on in the tournament. No idea. 99% of the time you will not have the foggiest clue what is going on, because for all the time you're talking on the stream, you can't be looking at other stuff. I mean, you can. There is quite a high percentage of alt tabbing that goes on by casters. It's almost like a point of pride, like have alt tab and not have it be at all noticeable. But I try to train myself out of alt tabbing nowadays. But yeah, so. Like you've no idea what's going on. I've never done any admin-ish sort of work, and I have absolutely no qualifications that would be relevant to getting a job in a video game department. I did a psychology degree at Exeter, which is like, psychology is interesting in that you can do anything with it, but you cannot do anything psychology related with it.
Right.
Like you need to do a master's.
Mm.
Basically, if you want to do anything psychology related, and I was not willing to do that because I found psychology interesting, but I was kind of starting to wear out on it, and I got a 2-2, which is so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my camera is really like
your camera has literally gone up in the frequency of black to white, like in the past 5 minutes.
Never buy cheap webcams, people. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Not even worth it.
There we go.
Right. But yeah, anyway, I've No, I'm not going to move it. I'm not going to move it.
No, don't move it.
That
Don't
is a
move it
terrible
now.
plan. Right.
We already know what happened when you moved it
Okay, let's
last
just
time.
try and let's just wrap this up fast.
Okay, so
Saying.
where were we?
That's me.
Exeter.
Yeah.
Psychology degree. Stuff like that. Okay, but anyways.
Oh yeah. What
Yeah.
was it to do if it didn't pan out in the esports thing?
That was it.
Search me, basically. I have no idea. Because I have very little motivation to do anything that isn't directly casting at the moment. And like I would like to try a lot of the other stuff that's in esports, but I don't know how suitable I would be. Again, though, I always have to consider the fact that my own opinions of myself are always incredibly low.
Mm-hmm.
So I might, maybe I would be able to do something like that. Maybe not. Who knows? Who cares? Other than me and my family, because they're getting on me for not having a job for 2 years. But hopefully, because basically my current plan is just find a job that is very boring and normal, and just use that and hang on that until I can try and find a permanent berth in terms of esports. That's literally it. That is the plan at the moment, and I hope it pans out. If it doesn't for several more years, then I might have to start considering office jobs. But there is one thing about living on Guernsey which is good in a way, which is that you can have a terribly poor education and still get a job in a bank, because the finance industry on Guernsey is like the only thing that has anyone living there. But because they're really restrictive on who can live there, the actual number of people they can recruit locally that have any kind of qualification is quite low. So they're a little less stringent, which is handy. I'll say that. But yeah, at the moment, hopefully I'll find something. If not, c'est la vie.
Well, thank you very much, Spud, for coming on this interview for our first episode. If people want to find you, where can they go?
Well, basically my Twitter, twitter.com/Spuddington or @Spuddington, if that is what you want to call it. I do have a Facebook page, but I stopped using it like last year probably. So if you find that, well done. If not, don't worry about it. It's not very important.
It's fine. So yeah, thank you very much once again for coming on. If you don't know how to spell Spuddington, it should be somewhere in the overlay underneath him.
It's 2 Ds.
2 Ds. 2 Ds. I got asked the other day, is it 2 Ds and 2 Ts? And I was like, it's Spud, Ding, Ton. Like a spud, potato.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways,
you can spell.
I'm great at spelling. Oh my
How
god.
hard is spelling?
I remember failing all my spelling tests when I was like 6.
Spelling. Man, I loved the like really young ages where it was just like, do no work, do really well.
Dude, it was like...
What happened to that?
It was words like notwithstanding. And I was like, what is this word? Why do I have to spell it?
It's like, that's just 3 words bolted together.
Yeah. No, that was easy. That was easy.
Business was always the trouble.
Isn't it busyness?
It's bustiness.
Busyness? I could just say busy with an I. Busyness.
Yeah, but people had problems with double S's back in like year 3 whenever I was having to spell business. I can't remember.
Yeah. That's a shame. Anyways, anywho.
Outro. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anywho.
My outros are always the worst, and it infects other people.
It's fine. The outros are like the hardest bit. I said that with the intro. Took us about 10 minutes. Took us
quite a bit of trouble with the
minutes.
intro too.
Yeah, the intro took us about 10 minutes. So the outro will be as easy as this. So anyways, if you guys like the interview, feel free to share it and everything, whatever. Feel free to follow Copenhagen Wolves, Twitter, @CPH Wolves, not Copenhagen Wolves. It's CPH Wolves. There'll be a link in the description below, and my own Twitter, which should be somewhere below @JustTalha_, because someone else took Just Talha. People actually have the same name as me. It's unbelievable. But thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you very much, Spud, for coming on the show.
I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, that was perfect. Thank you very much, and goodbye.